Johnston. Buell England.
Honey.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Joe Bird.
Honey.
Sean Crittenden.
Honey.
Don Garvin. Frankie Hargis. Wanda Hatfield. Rex Jordan.
Here.
Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell. David Thornton.
Honey.
Victoria Vasquez. David Walkingstick.
Honey.
Brian Warner. We do have a quorum.
Awesome. Okay, that brings us down to the approval of minutes of June 17th and the PAC committee. Can we do
Make
them
a
at once?
motion they both be approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes from June 20. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, those are approved. Brings us down to reports. I saw Chuck Garrett.
Sorry about that. Good morning.
Next time we go
Good morning.
here and add Briggs and Lowry and make it like, can we do that?
You know anything good?
We do what we're gonna do, whatever it is.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you and good morning.
Keys.
Mr. Slayton is out of town, so I am filling his very big shoes. We're trying. So I'll be reporting on May's financials this morning, and of course, happy to answer any other questions that you may have. And for the month of May, the consolidated revenue was $84.4 million. This was almost $6 million shy of our budget. May 2017 consolidated net income was $10 million, which was $529,000 short of our budget. And those two numbers are worth thinking about because the top line, we were shy almost $5 million, but when we look at the bottom line, we were making a lot of it up in expense management. And so the bottom line that we focus on for dividend payments was $500,000 short. I've peaked at June, and when Sean gets back, he'll have the luxury of coming back with a lot stronger news. But we are working hard to do both top line expansion, but also bottom line expense management. So, and speaking of that, this is our budget season. So we're in meetings with every department, going through, and we're going to be starting our second round. So every department will be challenged to be strong and optimistic, but yet realistic on the revenue side. And also we expect people to be very mindful of how they spend the nation's money. Whether it's travel and some of the expenses that you can manage. We want to invest in our people. We want to make certain that they have the training they need to do the great job we know they can do. But it's a big process. I know you all go through a comparable process, but we're working hard to get that wrapped up so that our board can address that in September at their earnings conference. Happy to try and address any questions you might have.
Go ahead, Councilor Buzzer.
The first numbers you gave us, Chuck, was
Yes, sir.
88.4 million.
Yes,
And that was a minus 5 million over last year, is that what you just said?
to budget,
Okay.
but consistent with previous year.
Okay, consistent.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I didn't hear the consistent part.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that answers that question. So, the next number you gave us, is that for our dividends that comes back to us?
Yes.
Okay.
The dividend is calculated off the net income.
Okay. All right, okay. Thank you.
I do want to speak to their budgeting or their projection process. They're very aggressive. And as an accountant, when I look at it, I think that's a tall bar to reach. And so you're consistent with last year. That's a good thing. Falling short of budget on the surface sounds bad, like you're failing, but the point is you're trying to get the maximum. You want to reach for the bar, and you set it high every year. I do have a question regarding 8A contracting. I'm wondering if part of this falling short of budget is a result of a changeover in the administration in Washington. Are we seeing a pullback in those contracts being let, and is it possible that as we get on into the fiscal year, we'll see some of those loosening up? Can you speak to that at all?
I can. You're right. The transition between the Obama administration and the Trump administration caused a lot of the contracts to slow down. So the issuance of task orders that fill the government contracts that we've already been awarded slowed down because you have a kind of a revolving door of people. And as people have kind of settled in, they've recognized what projects are in queue and what the next step is. We've seen kind of an increase on the velocity of those task orders. Last month, month of June, I was reporting on May, we saw our contract wins almost at record levels, and we're thinking the next couple of months, which is, it's a kind of a seasonal contracting cycle, and we're expecting great things in the next 2 months on the contracting side. So hopefully the task orders will pick up, and we'll continue to be able to post some good, strong numbers on the revenue side, or on the government contracting side. What we're seeing in the gaming side is some of our smaller properties got off to had a kind of a tough patch in the last 6 months, where the economy, maybe in northern part of the jurisdiction, for example, where it's very reliant on energy industry, had slowed down. But now we're seeing things pick up. We're seeing all properties performing at a high level, and I think that will have some momentum as well. So, of course, Grove is now online. We're anxious to see what the summer months bring for it. So I think there's lots of reason to be optimistic, but we will continue just to do the blocking and tackling, and that's what it takes. You know, it's a day in, day out thing that requires all of our team to perform. So.
Councilor Creighton, did you have?
Yes, Mr. Garrett, I didn't see this month or last month the charitable donation report that was going to come monthly to us. Could you just remind?
I will be sure that I do remind folks to get that over here. I'm sorry that I don't seem to have that either, so I will. Actually, Counselor, I'm seeing here on page 5.
It's,
Of
sorry.
no, that's
Sorry,
fine.
it's actually going to be in your financial packet
Right,
that you get every month.
right.
It's on.
So we got it this month?
Yes.
It's on page 5.
It's actually in here instead of your E&F packet, because there's actually some confidential information, and that E&F packet gets posted online and everything, so it's actually going to come in your financial
So we
packet.
can't get that in Legistar, can we, on the iPad?
That big thick book?
No.
Okay.
The financial.
One thing that we've discussed doing is actually emailing it out to you, as well as its hard copy, but it won't be in Legistar due to some confidential information.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Wait your turn. Councilor England, did you have your hand up? It's not. Councilor Walkenstick?
I get put in my place quite a bit. Hey Chuck,
Yes, sir.
we had a conversation with Gary Cooper last couple of weeks about strategies on building more homes.
Mm-hmm.
And what he explained to us was we're the bank, and we can only build as many homes as we have, as far as money that we have. That's as many homes we can build. So I was trying to figure out and strategize, think outside the box of how we could show that we have that money or partner with the bank and have them carry these loans toward these Indian homes, these Section 184s. So I don't know, is there from your experience with building these homes, and what strategy would you go about? Not saying it's going to happen, but what strategy would you pursue to get more homes on the ground with having a line of credit, or you know, what's your idea on that, or what does that look like to you?
Well, there are a couple of ways to tackle this, and you mentioned the 184 loan program. Of course, Gary knows as much about this stuff as anybody, certainly more than me, but the 184 loan program, I think, has a maximum loan to value of about 97.5%. So in theory, you could borrow darn near all the cost of the home. It's not a construction loan, though. It's a permanent loan. So you have to figure out how you get the funds to construct and then put the permanent loan on after.
Is 184, are those combined, the construction and the permanent, that's all one closing cost, correct?
I think you can structure that.
Okay.
So ultimately, somebody's got to write a check.
Sure.
That's unfortunate reality. It doesn't have to be a big check necessarily,
Yeah.
but
Whether it be a bank or us or
yeah,
CNB,
or the owner,
Yeah.
you know, for that matter. I mean, you know, when you are able to get 97.5% financing, you know, that's a pretty attractive.
Sure.
But you do have to write
I just don't ever want to, I don't want to tie our monies up at CNB where we can't reinvest it, getting tied up in the Indian homes.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if there was a way that we could partner with the bank that would be interested in taking on these loans for these Indian homes for these folks.
I think
Just so we can get more homes on the ground.
yeah. I know Gary has worked closely with Bank 2, which is, you know, the Chickasaw Bank. And I'm guessing they've tried to figure out how to get the upfront construction.
Because let me ask you this: what if we use our CNB dollars as collateral? Would that tie our monies up where we couldn't reinvest it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's pledged to a lender, that's going to restrict those funds.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be able to invest it, or you wouldn't be able to dividend it out, however you want to look at it. But I know it's a huge problem. I know it's something you care a lot about, and everyone here does. So anything that we can do, we'd like to do.
Is all of our properties paid off, or the majority of them?
Yes. Yeah, we have no debt at any level at C&B.
Okay. Thank you, Chet. Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else have any questions for Chuck? Okay, appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you, and just on if I may, just on a personal note, Councilor Garvin, thank you for your service. Councilor Snell, Councilor Thornton, Councilor Baker. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Okay, Jamie Cole is going to report for Lacey today. Sure you guys are busy in your office.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. I believe you have our report. I'd just like to add that last Wednesday, we held our annual Cherokee Nation Financial Resources Training, which included a component from risk management this year. That training is designed for financial resources staff and other Cherokee Nation departmental staff that process financial transactions. I'd like to thank the presenters and attendees at that training. Thought it was a very good training.
Does anybody have any questions of Jamie? And if he can't answer them, he can take them back to our treasurer. If not, we'll send you back to work on the budget books.
I'd like to echo Chuck Garrett's comments, outgoing counselors, Counselor Garvin, Snell, Baker, and Thornton. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jamie. Don't sit down, Diane. You're up. Okay, put my flyers on the table.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Just wanted to share in what Chuck said about Councilman Garvin and Councilman Snell and Thornton and Baker. Enjoyed working with all four of you guys, and I know that you guys are going to be still involved in the nation to some extent because that's just your nature. And we appreciate all the work that you've done, and on behalf of our department, we just appreciate you and say a fond farewell to you. We just completed a review by the Department of Interior, Public Law 102477, which was our Child Care Development Center and Human Services and our employment training programs on career services side and adult education. This law was a demonstration law that went into effect about 8 or 9, 10 years ago, somewhere thereabout. And they put the Department of Education, Department of Labor, and they combined some of the programs, kind of like the self-governance, but it was called 102477. And Ida Doyle and Mary Dupree from the Department of Interior was here last week doing a review on those programs. Prior to that, we did some training with the staff in both the departments the week before, so that whenever the review hit, everybody was knowledgeable on the law, what it meant, and what we were required to have ready for them when they came. So there's 5 different things that they asked to look at in the application process, so we wanted to make sure that all the staff was fully aware of it. They haven't done a review on the program in about 3 to 4 years. So we knew that they were coming and they were going to be looking at those files, so they sent a sample of how many files they wanted to look at when they got here. They spent most of their week out in the field at the Child Care Development Centers. They went to some of our job sites, some of our training sites, and on Thursday they briefed out. They said there was no findings. They did have some recommendations, and some of the recommendations, and this is what I told Ida, came from their perspective working in the field in other tribes. And the tribes they worked in were very small tribes in comparison with what they saw when they came here. And they did admit that the numbers that we have that we turn in to Department of Interior, if we don't turn our numbers in, so when they go and report up on the Hill to Congress, then those numbers are real slanted, because in comparison with all the other tribes that are 477, their reports almost are singly amount to the same amount that we as one tribe would turn those numbers in. So they've definitely got to have our numbers. So looking at the reporting system, they told us that we weren't actually capturing all of the stuff that we were actually doing. There is no line item in there to capture it. So what she told us was in one of the boxes on the application process, she said you can actually go back in there and count all the stuff. And I said, well, in past reviews we've had, not audits, but reviews, they've allowed us to go back and correct that, because the person who was here 3 years ago didn't explain that properly. So she said, well, I can't go back and tell you that he did a bad job, but what I can tell you is that we're looking at the last 3 years. And if you can go back between now and October 1 and capture those numbers, we will change the numbers. So that's what we're in the process of doing. So once those numbers are turned in, they are going to be astronomical to that report. So we're very thankful that they are allowing us to do that. They actually said that they felt like that the program, they were just flabbergasted by what they saw and who they talked to. They attended a lot of our activities that we had scheduled last week for the last week of summer youth. They visited with some of the summer youth kids, some of the parents, and even some of the job sites. So they just actually felt like that what they saw, they knew that the money was going to good use, and they felt like that when we put these programs together that we were getting the best bang for the buck. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. It's been a good 2 weeks. We have flyers in the back on some job fairs Ray Corporation at the Mid-America Industrial Park has one scheduled for tomorrow from 8 to 4. We have a job fair at the Port of Catoosa in Rogers County. We also have a construction job fair scheduled for September the 13th. And all these flyers are back in the back for you to pick up on your way out. And we also have a flyer back there for the Cherokee National Holiday Parade. Our department is putting that on. So if you know of people in your community, in your district that would like to be in the parade, encourage them to get one of these or take some with you and hand them out for us. We'd appreciate that. We're continuing to work with Star Pipe in South Coffeyville, High Pro and St. Francis Hospital at Veneta, Swans and Stillwell. And we have another business that we're working with, Buddy, down at the Salisaw area. He's with the industrial park. They have a potential business that's going to expand in Salisaw, so we're working with him. And then Ingredion is coming to Tulsa, and that was one of the businesses that we had in the pipeline with C&B that Sean and Chuck and Brenda and I attended. So they are definitely coming to Tulsa. Those are going to be good paying jobs with finance and accounting. And we have around 12 that are in the pipeline that we're still continuing to work with. We don't know exactly whether they're going to locate in the area, but we are continuously going back and forth to Tulsa to work with them and send information. Summer youth employment ended last Friday. I want to commend Jeff Vance, John Crenton, George Roach, and Lucinda Washington for all the hard work and working with the program and the youth. We had 724 students who worked on the program. And Councilman Buzzard, I want to commend two young men. They're twins from Fairland, and they were the top summer youth kids. They walked to their job site every day, never missed a day of work. They worked for the city of Fairland, and those two young men were our outstanding summer youth participants. We couldn't award one without awarding both of them because they're identical twins and they both worked at the same job site. And so when Vicki worked up the information on them, it was almost identical. And their job site supervisor and their parents were here last week when we had our award recognition reception. So I just wanted to tell you that since that's up in your district. We have a grant that will be submitted today. It's on developmental employment initiatives. It will be for $2.5 million, and if we're successful, we hope that we will be. Brenda and Kim and Deborah are real optimistic. They hope that we will. They worked very hard on it. They worked 2 weekends in a row, and then we had the grants management team looking at it, so they assured me that it would be submitted today. And then we're going to be looking at another grant for women in apprenticeship, which is in non-traditional occupations. And we'll vet that probably tomorrow to determine whether or not we're going to go after that. And it's for about $500,000. And these are both Department of Labor grants. And that's the area that we have a lot of expertise in. And then I just wanted to remind you about the Cherokee holiday and then also the National Congress of American Indians. It's coming up in October. If you're planning to attend, you need to get your rooms reserved because they're going to fill up at the host hotel. I know it's the middle of October, but if you don't get those rooms in pretty quick, you won't be able to stay at the host hotel. Speaker Byrd is our area vice president, and he will be running for a second term at the National Congress. So encourage you, if you want to go up and help us, we'll be glad to have you because those caucus meetings start at 7 in the morning, and they're almost every morning, and it's going to be a busy week. It'll be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
When is it?
Middle of October. Gail's got the information on it. Y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I know summer youth students, they did an outstanding job as always. I mean, you guys had so many programs going on with youth. I mean, they represent us well. A lot of those kids go on and either come back work for us, but very successful in what they pursue. So, you know, that's one of our most successful programs that we have here at Cherokee Nation, is making sure our youth, you know, get out there and get educated and oriented to what we have to offer here at the Cherokee Nation. So you and your staff, you know, keep up the good work there.
Thank you, thank you. And I know that some of the people have asked about day training. Day training will start gearing back up. Jeff is holding off because we will have a lot of day training participants working with the inauguration. activities. And then we'll also have a lot working with Cherokee Holiday. And then we'll probably open up after the holidays are over with.
I did have a couple things. I appreciate the charts in here about the summer youth employment. It was interesting to see the distribution across the 14 counties and also by age. And then I wanted to ask you about, you had mentioned you got 2 grant applications for the Coming Home Reentry Program. Have you heard back on those yet?
We have heard back on the very first one that was submitted, and there were no Indian tribes that were designated. They were awarded to state organizations and states. We still have one in the pipeline. We hope to receive word on it within the next week or two. We feel good about that one because we put a lot more time and effort into it. Some of them we have a real good feeling for, and others we don't, because when we get the announcement, sometimes we just have 2 weeks to turn it around. And there's a lot of research that goes into those grants, as well as getting commitment letters from support outside the nation to support our endeavors.
Well, you're doing a lot of good work there, so I hope you get that second grant.
Thank you.
That's all I have. All right, keep up the good work. So that brings us to Ann and I.
Good afternoon. Councilor Watkins, HUD does not require them to do a one-time close.
Counselor Walkenstick, she's addressing you.
Sorry. The HUD does not require them to do a one-time close. It's up to the bank. So they are able to go into construction to mortgage with a one-time closing, but it's completely up to the bank.
Okay.
So,
All right. That's good information.
Okay.
It's a lot cheaper than having 2 closing costs, having
It
a
is.
construction and a permanent financing.
it is. Other than that, you have a copy of my report. I'd like to point out that this year so far, we've made $2.2 million in commercial loans, which is double almost of what we were doing just a couple of years ago. So we're doing quite a bit of that. You can also see that our lending capital for commercial loans is running low. So one of the things that we're doing to look at that is to, we're trying to do more participation loans with banks so that people that are unbankable, if we loan them 20% or 30% of their project cost, then a bank's more likely to make them the loan for the rest of it. So we're trying to leverage the funding that we have in that fashion. We're getting ready for the holiday. It's in full swing. This year we're working with the Marshal Service on a parking and traffic plan for the powwow. So they're going to work with us and help us out, and I hope it'll go smoother this year. It gets a little bit better every year, but on Saturday night there's just not much you can do for it. It's just what it is. And then I also have to brag just a little bit on the Commerce staff, and I don't often do this, but the state director for rural development, Brian Wiles with USDA, actually called and asked us to apply for a USDA Cooperative Technical Assistance Grant because it's never been awarded in the state of Oklahoma. And he felt like if anyone could write a successful grant application, it would be us. And so anyhow, so I'm proud of the staff. They do a great job with it, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. Not sure that we'll get it, but it just to be asked demonstrates how well the staff works with USDA. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Anything for, yes, Counselor Buzzard? Yes.
And what's the cutoff, or what's the high end for the small business loan? Up to what amount?
We can make loans up to $500,000, but that's not typically what we do.
And then your commercial loans start at 5?
No, that is the maximum. The commercial and the small business loans are the same program.
It's the same thing, okay.
Yeah, they're the same program. Our average commercial loan is about $55,000.
Thank you, ma'am.
Counselor Lay?
Thank you, ma'am. The loans that you make, are they only for in jurisdiction or out of jurisdiction also?
They cover the entirety of the 14 counties, so we loan in all of Tulsa County, all of Muskogee County. That's how we manage it that way.
what the funding, so remind us again where that started from.
It started with tribal credit that the BIA used to run for the Cherokee Nation. And then when we took it over ourselves, we expanded it from consumer into commercial loans. And currently, the majority of the money that we get is through a CDFI grant that we write every year. And so usually we're very successful at receiving that grant. And receiving grant funds enables us to make higher risk loans since we're not having to repay someone for the loan money. We do have a couple of USDA intermediary lending programs where USDA loaned us money at 1% for 30 years. And so we make payments back to them on that.
1%?
1%, yes. Yeah.
You need to
Now,
do
we don't
something.
loan it out at 1%. But we got it from them at 1%, yes.
Anything else?
Round two.
Anna, what? Adair County Credit Association is not affiliated with the tribe or your department.
Correct.
What is it? I've known it for the last 20 years, but I really don't know what it is either.
It's they have members, so people join this association as a member, and I believe there's qualifying factors as to who can become a member of it. And then they make loans, and they've made housing loans. I'm not sure if they've made any commercial loans. They're not nearly as active as they used to be.
So is it funded through USDA or?
I'm not sure where they got their funding from, to be honest with you. The Cherokee Nation used to manage that program for them, but when I started back in 1993, then they had just pulled away and started managing it themselves.
So they have their own board of directors there.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Got anything, Counselor Thornton? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brings us down to our consent items, and I saw, Willard, you've got a tarot certification list in your book. I'm assuming that's correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this month's tarot certifications. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, let's move on to the community assistance. You were given a new sheet.
I have some additions to the new sheet.
And a correction.
Okay, Counselor Baker?
Yes, the 2,500 to the Cherokee Foundation. I'd like to strike that because that's a duplicate of what I gave last month. Okay, thank you.
Got it, Jody?
Yep.
Okay.
So we just went 2,000. Is that right?
Jody, I need to add the 4-H FFA Booster Club in Stillwell for $500.
Okay, I need to add Counselor Anglin, $2,000 for Sperry Merchants organizational support, $2,000 Skytook American Legion Post 13, under Counselor Snell, Piney Church, $1,000, Lone Prairie, $1,000, Elm Prairie, $1,000, Leach School, $1,000, Twin Oaks Baptist Church, $1,000, and Steely Baptist Church, $741.
Got a Keys FFA for 1,000. This split between the three of us. Keys FFA 1,000, Lowry 500, Briggs 500, OK 1,000, Oberlin FFA 1,000, Norwood 500, Shady Grove 500, Tellico FFA 1,000, Peggs 500, Grandview 500, and Woodall 500. Get it?
It's all.
No, but I'll get with you after the meeting.
Also, the Olive Baptist Church for 150 from Joe and I's district needs to be struck, and that needs to go towards Dry Creek Community Building.
Okay.
Well, I'm just curious, there are some applications that it appears everything is in order from back in May that still have not been paid. Some have been paid and some have not, and I'm just curious.
W-9s have been submitted.
Well, it says the paperwork has been submitted on here.
I'll
the
get with
holdup,
Gail
Joe?
and see what's, I mean,
Okay. I appreciate that.
On that
Yes,
same note, Jody, some of these people, we've duplicated some donations this year because we got more money into our deal, but they're still not getting the check, you know, I mean, and they have W-9s on file for this year. So it's in payroll or wherever the accounting where it's hung out.
Jody, you want to look into that?
yeah, I'll look into it.
I've talked to Gail about it, but I don't know.
Jody's the money man.
Okay, is everybody else square? Because gonna have to wait till August. Go. Counselor Crittenden,
Yes, ma'am.
go, buddy.
Thank you. I'm gonna put 300 in with David and Frankie on the old Greenleaf Baptist Church, so that brings it up to 900, I guess. So my part will be 300.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody else good? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, law enforcement, were there any new ones, Jody?
No.
Okay, so we don't need to approve those. And what about roads? Were there any additions there?
Yes, I actually need to add one to the report that's in the book for Counselor Austin for Will Rogers Junior High for $60,606.
Okay. So we need a motion and a second to approve that.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve the roads. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, that carries. We do have a few new sports teams.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second for sports teams. All those in favor? Any opposition?
Chairman, the sports teams, is there another criteria we could go about on these sports teams as far as doing voluntary hours or matching dollars?
So I think you would have to bring,
An amended policy?
would it require legislation to amend the policy, Jack?
You'd have to look at the policy. Bring it up in-
Just amend the policy?
So I would suggest that you have Gail or whoever keeps those policies send you the policy, see what changes you would like to make,
Bring forth council?
and then bring it in the appropriate manner. And Jack's not going to be here to tell us what's appropriate. So I'm thinking it's not going to get changed.
Jack, can we just put you on retainer?
Yeah, ex officio to.
The sports team and livestock are pretty much, the policy's pretty much set with through our budget process, so,
Through the tribal council,
yeah, I mean, you guys can
amend it.
amend that, but it's in the narrative in the budget, so.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
In the policy, you put it on the rules.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. Thank you.
Good to look at.
Thank you, Chair.
You're
That's all I
welcome,
have.
sir. Anybody have anything to add to this lively discussion? If not, let's go on to livestock. Any changes there?
No.
Okay, there's no old business. There is some new business. Frankie?
This is a resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation Roads Department to donate equipment to the Barron Baptist Church in Adair County, and I move for its approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for the resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Nope. Brings us down to the budget amendments. Jack, would you introduce those, please? Or first one, anyway.
Yes, this is an act amending Legislative Act 2216, authorize the comprehensive capital budget for fiscal year 2017, Mod 6. I make a motion that it be approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the capital modification. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, Jack, go ahead with the third one, please.
Okay, this is an act amending Legislative Act 2216, authorizing and comprehensive operating budget for fiscal year 2017, Mod 10. Make a motion that it be approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the operating budget. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Well, that brings us down to announcements. Anything that hadn't been said? Okay, with that, our next meeting is scheduled for August 31st. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposition? We are adjourned.